Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, while filming the winterization process for my lawnmower, I noticed that I made a huge and terrible mistake on one of my cylinders, and that involves our spark plug. So unfortunately, due to operator error, I guess I'll call it, this guy's cross-threaded, and that's no bueno, but we'll go ahead and take a look at a quick and easy hack to see if we can get those threads repaired. So I know the proper way, either take it into a shop or do it yourself and get your heads off, get that nice and cleaned up off of the engine, but I think there's a way that we can do it on the engine. So we'll go ahead and show you that in a minute. But first, how do you know if your spark plugs are cross-threaded? Well, very easy. When you go ahead and take your ignition lead off, connect up your spark plug socket over there. As you're twisting out, you're feeling it bind. Like, it's not easy coming out of the engine itself. So go ahead, pull this out, and we can also examine the threads just to see and confirm. So while our threads don't look bad, the problem comes with installing our brand new spark plug right here. When we go ahead and try to get that guy in, there's a lot of binding, and I don't want to force this guy because it's not going in easily. So what we're going to do is take our nice new clean spark plug, and similar to a tap, like a machinist tap, we're going to cut 4 grooves into our threads right here. And what that does is sharpens our teeth on here, and as we twist, we'll be cutting new threads into our engine. So the key thing and key items that you're going to need, you can use a little saw blade to cut these grooves out. I'll be using a Dremel tool with a cutoff wheel just to cut in some nice 4 grooves in here. You'll also want to get a pair of needle nose pliers, and then either a rag or tissue or some sort of paper. And then also we're going to want some grease. Any grease will do, but you're going to want to make sure that as we're cutting new threads, this guy's coated in grease, so that way we're picking up any of the metal shavings, because what's worse than a cylinder that has a cross-threaded spark plug hole is an engine with metal shavings in it, just tearing up the piston, the cylinder walls, anything and everything. You want to keep metal out of this guy. So we'll go ahead and show you our first couple steps that we need to do and go from there. So first things first, I'm going to say do this at your own discretion or at your own risk, I'll say. There are tools that you can buy in order to tap new threads into a piece of metal. If you want, go ahead, go with those, but this is just a quick DIY method on the cheap. So first thing you're going to want to do is, I left my spark plug in my socket and I just inserted this into a bench vise. You don't want to put too much pressure on there, but just enough so that way it's kind of staying in place. And I know you just saw that move, but it'll be okay. And then what you'll do is take a Dremel tool. This is just the one I have. It's just a simple 2-speed, low and high. And I have a diamond cutoff wheel in here. You can get just the standard metal ones. And what we're going to do is cut some nice easy slots in here. Now, don't go too deep in here because you don't want to cut into the electrode or the internals of this guy. And also, quick note, try not to cut your compression ring on here, because if we do this right, you'll be able to reuse the spark plug for the next season after, even with the cuts in the threads. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And when it's all said and done, you'll have 4 grooves cut into this guy. And these will be very sharp, so watch your fingers when you're doing this. And these will be what cut new threads into our engine. So we'll go ahead, head on upstairs, and get started. So before we do anything, you're first going to want to find top dead center on the cylinder that you're working with. And top dead center is just a fancy term of saying when the piston is at its highest point in either the compression or the exhaust stroke. So one quick and easy way to find out if you are at top dead center is to go ahead and take a socket extension or just anything, screwdriver, anything like that. Go ahead and stick it into the spark plug hole, into the cylinder, and what you're going to want to do is with your other hand go ahead and spin the engine, and you're going to want to feel, yep, right there. So see, as I turn the engine, I'm getting pushed out, and right there I'm not moving any further. This is top dead center. So you want to start in that position. Now what you're going to do is either take your tissue or paper towel along with your needle nose pliers. This is about half a sheet of paper towel, nothing too crazy. You go ahead and want to crumple that up, and it's very hard to see, but you're going to want to stick it inside the cylinder with your needle nose pliers. This will prevent any of the threads that we're cutting to fall into the cylinder itself. Now, I know that was hard to see, but I had to move the camera out of the way, but I essentially just took the paper, put it into the cylinder, and just pushed it in with the needle nose pliers itself. So, next thing you want to do is take your modified spark plug and go ahead and you're going to want to coat the threads in grease. Now, any grease will do. This is basically just trying to make sure that you catch all of the shavings that come on here. I'm using lithium grease just because that's what I have readily available. But you're going to want to go ahead and coat these guys, and don't be afraid to lay it on thick, because the more grease you have on here, the better catching power you guys will have with catching these pieces of metal. So go ahead, get that on there. I'm avoiding, getting it on the electrode itself up here, but just go ahead, get some good coats on there. And now we can get to the fun part, which is actually cutting in the threads. And what you're going to want to do is always start off by hand. You want to make sure that you're going in nice and straight, and you're not cross-threading it any more than you have to. Once you feel the first couple of threads go in, what you'll want to do is hook up your socket, or not your socket, but your ratchet wrench. You're going to go ahead and just tighten. And this should be a nice and smooth process, because as you're doing this, you are cutting the new threads into the cylinder head. So go ahead, keep cutting. You're going to feel that resistance a little bit once we get nice and tight. So go ahead, we'll back this guy out now, and now when you're backing these threads out, it should come out nice and easy. So we'll undo a couple times, then the rest will come out by hand. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but we do have some slight metal shavings in there, so that's good. It means that we caught and cut some of those new threads in there. So what we'll go ahead and do is we will clean the spark plug off, pull out the paper towel that we had in there, and retighten the new spark plug in. And 2 tips and tricks that you can do when cleaning out your spark plug hole or your spark plug. If you have a compressor with a slight nozzle, you'll want to use just a little bit of air pressure, nothing too crazy, but Obviously, don't look directly into the spark plug hole, but if you shoot a little bit of compressed air out there, you can have some of the metal shavings fly right back out, just to make sure you're covering all of your bases and making sure there are no metal shavings in there. And also when cleaning the threads on the spark plug that we use to cut threads in there, obviously clean the grease off first with a nice paper towel or something like that, but you can also use carb cleaner to get this guy nice and cleaned off. So with that being said, because we didn't cut too deep in this guy, we can just insert this into our freshly tapped spark plug hole. Once again, you want to start by hand and then follow up with the wrench itself. Once we get nice and tight, throw on your ratchet, nice and hand tight, nothing too crazy, and then we can pop this guy out. In fact, go ahead and use our needle nose. Connect this guy right back up, and there we go. Well, that'll about do it for today, guys. Hopefully this video helped if you had a similar situation with a cross-threaded spark plug hole, and hopefully it saved you guys a little bit of money too in the process. Now, if this process didn't work for you guys and you're still noticing a little bit of binding when inserting the new spark plug, go ahead and purchase a tap kit. They make them specifically for small engines, and go ahead and do it the proper way. This was just a quick and dirty way if you could do a fix within your own driveway on an afternoon with basic hand tools and what you have already at home. So with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.